Okay, so here it is. This is going to be a Zorga deck profile. It's going to be a little bit crazy, I think, because it's got some a little interesting ideas I had. But I'm going to go through my thought process, and you're all going to understand what it is. So, first things first, we're going to start with the ride deck. It's very simple. Starter. On ride, if you go second, you draw a card. You can choose the ghost. I choose the kitty. I like the kitty. Then you use a Randor. Obviously, because when you ride it, you Soul Blast the cat out. You draw 2 cards, and you discard an order to put it in the drop zone. Nice. You kind of need it. Hush Dragon, because not only is he a really good grade 2 that you can pull out of the soul later, but when you ride him, that order you discarded for Randor, you get it back to your hand. And then, of course, Zorga, main guy of the deck, Counterblast 1, get a unit out of the drop zone, let you perform Alchemagic. If you Alchemagic real quick, you play an order, you can choose an order from your drop zone, you basically add its cost and effect to the order you played. It's just like combined cost and effect. So that's simple. So you just nice simple ride order. One of each, really one of each. Alright, next. We play 4 of the new card from set 4. The Roaming Prison Dragon. So, if you're unaware what Roaming Prison Dragon does, is when if he's in the drop zone, and you perform Alchemagic, or you play an order, just straight up, if you play an order, he resurrects himself, so he calls himself to the rear guard, and then excuse me, he'll get one of the 2 effects. He'll either give himself 10,000 or give himself a crit. Now, if you Alchemagic, so you use 1 order from your hand, 1 order from your drop zone, he gets both those effects. Now he on the surface like, well, wait a minute, he's only got 5,000 power. He might be a little tricky to see with the light and that, but he's only got like a 5,000 power base. But I find that's not really a problem. With his release, Zorga kind of changed his old win condition to the dragon. You go from like a late game kill him with a shark with garbage trick to constant pressure with this, because if you can Alchemagic every turn, he gets 10,000 and a crit no matter what, and he does that even if you're not on grade 3 and your opponent's not on grade 3 as well. So he can impose a lot of pressure. So he's kind of the new star of the deck. So you definitely play him. I played him at 3 before, but I'm pretty sure now you play him at 4. He's the new star of the deck. After that, from set 3, we got a Shadow Cloak. Shadow Cloak's a neat little card. I play him at 3 because he's really important, but you don't want to be too you need a lot of orders in here, so you have to make cuts where you can. Shadow Cloak's nice simple. When you play him from hand, you search your deck for an order and reveal it. If that order does not exist in your drop, so if there's not another copy of that order in your drop zone, you basically discard the revealed card and shuffle your deck. If it is, but the way it's worded is kind of weird, because if it is in your drop zone, you reveal it and then you just shuffle your deck, so you don't get that order. You have to go grab an order that is not in your drop zone to get value out of that. His second effect is actually very nice as well. Is when he's on your rear guard and you play an order, you Soul Blast 1. He'll give himself 5k, and then you can choose one of your other rear guards and you can return it to your hand. So you can make some fun plays where you can like use. If you revive some, like either you can revive your perfect guard or triggers with Zorga, put him back. You can do maybe like a Hendrina turn, like your drop zone's a little low on cards. You revive Hendrina to get a mill 3. You bounce her back. You play your Alchemagic. You play her back. You put her back in your hand. A few little plays you can do. But mostly you do it for like your to get those orders in your drop, so you can have your toolbox going, and then of course he does give himself some power. And units that give themselves power in Zorga is always useful. So I play him at 3. Next up, 2 Hendrinas. Nice and simple. When you play her, you mill 3. And then when she's on your rear guard, you can retire. She retires herself. Makes the Soul Blast cost of all your Alchemagics for this turn basically free. But that's just the Soul. Very important, need your engine. I dropped her down to 2 because I needed the room for other cards. My 4 was too many because I always saw them after with the current build, whereas before, like, you needed the 4 because I feel like it was part of your winning condition, where now she really isn't as much. You still need her, and you can of course recycle her constantly. If she's in your soul, you can Soul Blast her to put in your drop that revive her with Zorga himself. I play a few orders as well that revive units. You can revive her that way, as long as she's not in damage. If both of her are in damage, you're in trouble. But lots of cards in the deck. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. So I play Internet 2. Next, a couple 1-ofs. I play 1 copy of Blooming Petal Clorificus. No, that's not right. Blooming Petal. Well, we're just gonna call her Blooming Petal. That's good. Yeah. You can look her up yourself, but she's the big pink lady. I got a nice hollowed one. Haha. And if you're asking yourself, why do you play this card? Well, when you place it on rearguard, you get a soul charge too. So nice, an easy way to fill up your soul. You can even play her, soul charge 2, call on top of her to kill her, use Zorga, bring it back. She'll soul charge use 2 more. You get 4 soul charge right there. Nice, simple. And since I've been a adamant Neo Nectar player for years, I never miss an opportunity to play a Bioroid. Never miss an opportunity to play a Bioroid. So we're going to play her at 1. If she goes to Soul Blast her out. If she goes to damage, that's actually kind of where you want her, actually. Not damage. The drop, that's where you want her. She goes damage, hope for heal her out. So, but just 1. And then just the 1 shark. Yes, we dropped down. We went from 4 sharks to 1 in this course of from set 2 to current set 4. He's really just there for the really late game when you've pushed your opponent to 5 or 4 damage. You've used up most of your cards, and he just doesn't want to die, or he's got 2 perfect guards or multiple perfect guards. When you play him, if you Alchemage this turn, when he attacks, you Soul Blast 1 card. He gives himself 5k, and then he puts a garbage tick. Or if they're gonna call cards to the Guardian Circle from their hand, they have to call 2 at the same time. So just rip cards makes it harder to guard. And if you have him with a dragon with some powerful combos that I'll explain when we get to the orders, it really eats at your opponent's hand. So just play 1 shark now. Again, if he goes to damage, you hope you heal him out. If he goes anywhere else, you can get him back easy. It's a Zorga deck. Next, I play 3 Rogue Headhunters. Now, you probably want to play him at 4 because he's extremely powerful for a simple grade 1 he is, because if you play an order on the turn, if he's on the rear guard and you play an order, he immediately gives himself 5k. So he becomes a 13k booster. Just for having played an order. And if you're not playing orders as Zorga, you're probably in trouble, or you're stalling out your plays. So you're definitely gonna get that 5k power boost. And then when you play him, when he's placed on the rear guard, he'll reduce the cost of your magic for the turn by 1 counterblast, and that stacks, right? So you can play, if you play 3, it'll drop it by 3. You can never go into the negative. So just calculate ahead of time. It's okay, I'm gonna use 2, 3. It's gonna cost me 2 or 3 counterblast this turn. Maybe you can play 1 if depending on how much available counterblast you have, and then play the current amount. 4 would probably be best because this is really the only grade 1 in the deck, so having boosters that are not triggers, which you're going to probably do in this deck, is not ideal. But again, I cut him to 3 because I needed other cards and other order. I wanted more orders in the deck because it's a Zorga. You got to play orders every turn. You got to get those orders out. So I play my 3. You can play my 4 if you like. You can cut something else. You can decide you would like, if you want to cut our Flower Lady, But again, I feel like if you're gonna need some soul, and you need any excuse to play Flower Lady. Well, think about it. Any excuse. I know you're some Neo Nectar players out there. You play Flower Lady. So 3. All right. So that's the units of the deck that you're playing. Next, well, of course, I play 3 perfect guards. Yes, only 3, because again, I need to make some cuts to fit in some orders I wanted to play. So I dropped a perfect guard, but like I explained earlier, Shadow Cloak, you can bounce a unit back from your deck. From your rear guard when you Alchemagic for just 1 Soul Blast. So if you've called a perfect guard, you can then, like, if you could call a perfect guard from your drop with Zorga with Zorga as a skill, call it to the rear guard, play a Shadow Cloak, Alchemagic, Soul Blast 1, bounce that perfect guard that you just revived back to your hand, and now you have a perfect guard in your hand. So I feel like you can get away with playing 3 perfect guards, even in this like very like aggro meta that we're heading into, where like there's gonna be like very big powerful hits coming your way, especially with like things like Snow, Bruce. I haven't played against Bastion or Bruce to be personally, but I do understand how those decks work mostly, pretty much. But I feel like this is one of the decks you can get away with only playing 3. So I play a 3. Dealer's choice. If you want to play, if you feel like you need more for your locals, definitely feel it around. But that's the fun thing about Zorga. Like it's a very open-ended deck builds. You can kind of build them like you want. All right. So next we're going to go into the orders, and the most important order, personally, is Grief, Despair, and Rejection. Now I've currently have this build at 3. I do really think though that you're gonna need this at 4, because what it does for a single counterblast, as long as you're on Zorga as your Vanguard, you choose 3 of your units, you give them 10k. So you can give it 2 Zorga and then 2 other rear guards, or 3 of your rear guards. So if you give it to your dragon that you revive, so you can't. Well, actually, no, you can't really give it to your dragon because he's not there when this goes off. But you can definitely give it to the headhunter behind him, or the trigger, or you call trigger behind him to get that 10k power as well, or on the shark. But most likely you're gonna give it on Zorga because he's always there. But that's gonna be your push, and it's pretty cheap. It's only 1 counterblast. So if you play the headhunter, that brings that counterblast to 0. So it doesn't cost you anything to cast, which is very nice. Again, like I said, I would probably like to play a 4, but I really feel like I don't have the room to fit a 4th one in, so I'm playing it at 3. And next up, I play 2, Regurgitation of the Underworld. Arguably, you could probably cut this out completely. However, it is both a control card, because for a counterblast Soul Blast, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and you retire it, and then you call a unit with the same grid as that unit from your drop to your rear guard. And if it's part of Alchemagic, you choose 2 units instead of 1. So you can basically like call 2 units to the back row, or 2 rear guards if you need them. With the current setup, you're probably going to want to try and snipe like grade 1s and grade 0s of your opponent to call like boosters. Because if you have dragons in your drop zone, they're going to call themselves to the rear guard. And if you have, like, if you already have shark, if you have access to your shark or your Hendrina, or even your Husk Dragon, I'm forgetting your Husk Dragon from your soul that you've probably soul blasted at this point for something, I'm assuming. Like for even this, even. Because remember, you got to pay the cost before the effects go off. So if you soul blast him, you can call himself. And he gives himself 5k when he's on the rear guard, and you've cost an order, so very useful. So it gives you that extra, and it gives you that extra revive to refill your board as well. It gives you that extra push, because Zorga only revives 1 unit. if you're low on, because if you're low on hand, your hand only has orders, or very many orders, and only triggers like defensive units. Then you're gonna want to go into your drop zone, your toolbox drop zone that you've been setting up with your Hendrinas and your Soul Blasting, to just like force your opponent to have less units on the board, and power up your board. So I played it at 2. Again, arguably you could cut this completely, if you'd rather play some different orders, but I feel like it's very powerful for what it does, for its cost. Like if you play one Headhunter and use Hendrina Scale, it's free to cast. Like you just don't even have to worry about resources. It's nice and cheap. So I played it 2. Again, dealer's choice. Next up, I played 2 copies of Tearful Malice. Now you're probably thinking, why are you playing Tearful Malice? Well, 2 reasons. One, it's got a unique cost where you retire 2 units, and then its effect will go off, which is you draw a card, you put this card in your soul, and you counter charge one, so you can regain counter blast that you've used. What's unique about this is that you can basically kill your dragon, like your roaming prison dragon, and if you have 2, you can kill both of them. To get this card off, it won't be bound. If it's the Alchemagic card, it won't get bound. It'll go to soul. Or if it's your primary order card, not the Alchemagic one from your drop, it also goes to soul as well instead of drop. So it refills your soul for your cost if you haven't been able to use Hendrina. Again, I did cut down Hendrina to 2, so soul becomes a bit more of an issue to cast your orders, and use your shark ability, obviously, which is the big thing. So, and it gives you card draw, and basically it's like it lets you get an I feel like this card gives you an advantage because it gives you cards in hand, cards in soul, and refills your counterblasts. For killing units that, especially if you kill your dragon, it'll just come right back. Right, you've cast this, it's coming back because remember you pay the cost before the effects go off. Right. So you pay the cost, kill the dragon, it goes to drop zone, do the effect, whatever they may be. As soon as you're done, you bring the dragon right back. So I think it has a really nice synergy with roaming prison dragon by himself, and then you just simply use it to it gives you a draw power, because draw power is always good, and you go through your deck very quickly in this deck as well, because you're using Hendrinas to mill. So I play this at 2. Gives me it lets me basically takes advantage of the fact that dragon just revives himself, so I can use it to give myself a bit more cards, increase my resources basically. Next up, we're going to play 1 copy. Gather Upon Me, Ye Wandering Souls. This is more of a late game card. So basically, you to play this card, its cost is you discard an order from your hand. You choose your Vanguard, and it gets +1 drive until the end of the turn. So you hope. So actually, you know what? You're going to either use this really late to get that extra drive check, or maybe on your first grade 3 turn, or you can even use this really on your grade 2. So when you've ridden onto your Hush Dragon, since it's a grade 2 order, because it doesn't specify it has to be grade 3 or Zorga. So if you have this in your hand and another order, like let's say you have another one of these guys here, this one's not bad. Again, this one's not bad to have in your drop zone to use to Alchemagic later. You just discard it. You give your Hush Dragon an extra +1 drive, so now he's twin driving on your opponent. And if you went first, well, you're twin driving into a grade 1. They're most likely not gonna guard, so you might be able to crit them, or maybe you can even double crit them. Or if they do guard, they're gonna maybe overguard and put more cards down. So it's a nice early extra pressure. Again, it's not great. It's not something you really want to use as Alchemagic later as your secondary spell, because you do have to discard an other order to pay the cost. However, I do feel like that it can be extremely powerful in the because it's pressure on your opponent. And in this meta, the way that I built this deck is you constantly want to be pressuring your opponent, just ripping cards out of their hands. And the more cards you rip out of their hands, the less likely they are to be able to guard, your creating dragons, or even your powered up shark that has guard restrict. Because remember, if your opponent only has one card in hand, even if it's perfect guard, they won't be able to guard shark. So again, you want to so just to reiterate, I play this at 1 because I feel like I feel personally it's going to be very powerful and the right situation to just be a pressure card. So I've been talking a lot about sharks, but one of the cards that makes sharks really powerful is our lovely Nectar of, well, big English word that I can't pronounce. So Nectar, nice, really simple card. You'll notice a small pattern recently. All these orders, like the last 2 orders, like both Gather Upon Me and Cheerful, don't use your traditional, like this, traditional resources, like Counterblast, Soul Blast. They use units on the board or units in your hand or cards in your hand. Nectar is is basically free. Its caveat is you have to choose one of your rear guards, and for every 5 cards in your drop zone, it'll get 5k, and if you have then 15 cards, it'll get 1 crit. So let's say you have 20 cards in your drop zone. Well, your unit's going to get oh my god, it'll get 20,000 plus 1 critical. So you put that on sharks. So your sharks by himself is swinging for 40 and a crit. And then he uses a skill, Soul Blast 2, Guard Restrict, gets himself another 5k, so now it's swinging for 45. So that's either a that's perfect guard territory with 2 cards in the drop zone, or a lot of hand cards. Like that could be like 4. That's either most likely 4 or 6 cards. Because remember, you can't just, unless they, I guess if they have a 0 over trigger in hand, they could just drop an over trigger with something else. But I digress. A simple late game card. It doesn't have to go on Shark Eater. You can go on something else. Whatever you got. You're going to put down the dragon. Why not? And then we're going to play 2 copies of Spiritual Body Condensation. Very nice card. Soul Blast 1. Choose a card from your drop zone. Grade equal to or less than your Vanguard, and call it to the rear guard. And it also gets a nice 5k boost for a turn. Can't go wrong. Pick a shark. Pick a booster. Heck, pick a grade 0 card and use it as a booster if you need to. Nice simple. And again, shark will revive itself right after. And it gives some power. So nice little card. Safe self-connector. Played it 2. Because, starting to run out of room. Now for the little spicy tech, I play 2 copies of In Search of an Ideal Far Away. And if you're thinking, why are you playing that in Zorga now? Like, aren't there better options? Well, arguably, yes. However, this deck, like I mentioned earlier, revolves a lot around our imprisoned roaming prison dragon. Yes, that one. And yes, technically, to get most value out of dragon, he's got to revive himself. So we'll never see this. So arguably, right? So why is he getting power up? Well, the beauty about this card is if you choose your booster, right? Choose a booster that you're gonna put behind the dragon. So, I should probably explain to anyone in the crowd that might not know what this card does. So you choose one of your units, and when one of your other units attacks, it'll gain 5k. Right? So we'll rewind back. We're talking about the booster. You choose your booster. So you'll attack with Zorga. You'll attack with your other column, and then you put the dragon in front of the booster that you've chosen this card for. So he gets 5k from Zorga, 5k from your other column. Your dragon's declaring an attack as well. So he gets another 5k. So that's plus 15k on that booster, right? So assuming you've put nothing else on dragon, well, that's at least 45k swing into your Vanguard with a critical. That's not bad. That's pretty good. That's at least 3 cards from their hand. Like at least like 2 15k shields and a 5 to guard it. That's 3 cards. And that's your last attack of the turn. What else did you rip from their hand? Are they gonna have the perfect guard? So that's what I do. Hey, you can even put this on the shark. Make the shark even harder to kill. Like, you've been saying, whoever said there are better options, but it's also a really good option as well. Also, if you think there are better options, you can put it in the comments below this video. We can have a nice discussion. Or if you're one of my friends in Discord, we can have a discussion in Discord. Alright, let's go for triggers. Triggers, nothing special for triggers. We're going to play a 1 story kill over trigger. Our big beefy Omni trigger gives power, gives crit, gives the 100 draw and a heal. And of course the 100 million. It's nice and self-explanatory if you're familiar with this. Then I play, let's see, here they are, criticals. Oop. So 4. And then 7 criticals. And if you're sitting there thinking, wait a minute, 7 criticals? And why is only one of them the new crits? Well, it's the only one I currently own. But I would definitely run this at 4. And it's mostly because I prefer to play... instead of cutting a French trigger, I cut a critical trigger. And the reason being is that because the way I've built this deck, it's very, very rearguard dependent, and since my Prison Dragon already gains crit himself, gaining more power could be more beneficial as well. So an extra crit and power on one unit might not be as effective as, like, say, I have a shark or a husk on one side and a dragon on the other side. Or, say I have 2 dragons on the board, because you can definitely just call 2 dragons from the draw by themselves as well. I found that having those extra friend triggers to just hit hard there instead of having crits, a little better. I still run Molher crits, because of course crits win games. However, I do believe that the extra friend trigger, if nothing, and especially since it is the extra garter, are ideal for this build, very specific build I've made. And then of course, yes, 4 heals. Somehow I only had the 2 pixies, but I also want 4 of this beautiful girl that came out in this set. But we'll get there. We'll of course 4 heals. So that's basically it. That's this crazy deck I made. If you have any suggestions, you can definitely let me know. But I really think that, like, this current iteration is very strong. It's gonna be very aggro. It's gonna rip cards out of your opponent's hand. So if you've been looking for, like, a story K deck like I have, that's been like, but you weren't sure what to build, definitely think of Zorga. You can always play some lovely plant ladies. And yeah, there we go. Look at that. These are my favorite cards, Ride Line favorite cards from the deck. Hey, isn't that great? So, thank you for watching, and have fun out there.